So anyway, you've all been laughing at these stories, and I want to remind you that stories and storytelling is probably the oldest way of conveying information. Truth, of course, not truth too, and I want to remind you that storytelling is often about not truth. And I want to take you back probably long ago, around the time of the Lone Ranger, when I lived in a suburban town. It was Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I lived in a house. Just to give you some feel for that house and my parents, and the decorator who decorated my 12-year-old bedroom was a fairy. That was a word in those days. I haven't heard it often since, but I just think he was very thin. And my bedroom, when I was allowed to move into it, I had wainscoting on one side. It was wood painted cream color, and on the other side it was halfway up the wall. Of course, for me at that point, it was almost over my head. And then there was some printed blue stuff up there. And the interesting thing in those days of the Lone Ranger was that we didn't really get, at least in this house, to put our own stuff on the wall. I did have 2 photographs on the wall, which is ironic. They were by a fashion photographer in from Chicago, of all places, named Scribneski. And they were 2 naked women, girls. So, and they were up very high, up above my desk. And the desk was in an alcove. There was a captain's desk, which had lots of little drawers in it. And there was a captain's table, a captain's chair, a wooden chair, you know, to go with it. And then I had my bed, my trundle bed. And underneath there was a bed that came up and went up. It was very mechanical. And so I just want to put you in the space that was basically my my high school years, or two years, because then I left and went to prep school, and that's a whole other story for a different night. So this was, as I said, during the time of the Lone Ranger. So one night around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I was listening to Frank Zappa on the record player, which wasn't on, and it was rather odd because he kept playing Peaches and Regalia and stopping, and I would think there was something outside, a car. I'd go outside, I'd see the car, and go back, lay in my bed, watch Peaches and Regalia, and then I thought there was a car again. The weird part of the story is that the next day I found out that a friend of mine was driving at 3 o'clock in front of my house, and again, we don't have time for that. So they were much older than me. So anyway, I decided in those little drawers I had those little conical shaped incense, you know, cute, and I had 5, 6, 7 of them laid out there. And you know, I was really having a tough time sleeping about 3 o'clock in the morning. It's really early for me to go to sleep, even then. You know, like when I was 7, my goal was to read all 125 books in the Landmark series. So you can imagine by the time I was 15 or 17, 3 o'clock was pretty early to be going to sleep. So I pulled my knees up in my, now they call them tidy whities, I think, in my captain's chair in front of my captain's desk in my decorated room at 3 o'clock in the morning. And after about 7 or 8 minutes, the door opened up. And there was my father. And by the way, he was wearing his tidy whities. And he asked me what I was doing with this thing in my mouth. And I said to him very quickly, lighting incense. You know, it's one of those little brass things that you, and well, you know, time goes on, about 12 or 15 years. My father and I never got along, and we were having a typical argument one day in a very public place. And my father looks at me as I'm talking, he's not listening, and yells at me at the top of his voice, looks at me in the eyes and says, "Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think it was hash? Or do you think it was incense?" And I looked at the man and I thought to myself, will he really ever know? Thanks.